What's up? Welcome back to the hood. This is Chill in the Green Box with Specks, Thompson, and The View. And once again, my co-host, he's not here. He run off doing superhero stuff once again. But hey, at least not a whack excuse like typically. But today, I have Phoebe here with us. And Phoebe, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Specks.
For the people who don't know you, let people know who you are and what you do.
I'm a comic book creator. I'm also a writer of like narrative fiction. I released my first book this year. We put out maybe 15, 16 books on my independent comic book brand, 123 Go Publications. And we make horror, we make sci fi, we have an espionage book. In general, we're open to most like genres and topics. And yeah, so I'm a writer, I'm an editor, and I am a letterer.
All right, that's cool. That's cool. And so here's so my show is basically just show so people learn about who you are versus the Kickstarter you're running or the book, so people have more of a reason to
Stalled
support
there
you.
for a second.
All right, so my show has four different segments. My first segment is it's called Breaking It Down. Everything's based on the thing of chilling the green box. I'm not sure if you had that in front of your neighborhood, but it's the green
Oh,
electrical boxes that normally sit in front of the neighborhood. Well, yeah. So people used to hang out, chill on back in the day. So
okay.
it's that same experience. And going back with the first segment, breaking it down, people would just break down ideas and concepts with their friends. So with the first segment, I'm gonna break your brain down so people get uh, a good understanding of who you are, just with some icebreaker
Okay.
questions that I got formulated. All right. My first question, and then
Okay.
they're all random questions. Uh, what if you had a signature? Well, when you go out party with your friends or whatnot, what is your signature
Mm,
dance move?
I don't know if I have a signature dance move. One of my friends from college who like took it upon themselves to teach me how to dance at one point. He was a really good dancer, and he kind of stressed the importance of moving like hips, shoulder, neck, and like knees, like keeping the motion like on several different levels. So I definitely try to keep it like
Yeah.
a full body, moving my whole body into whichever rhythm I might be dancing to.
Okay. 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 All right. The next question: what is one item that you've seen about way more than somebody else or the average person? I
Socks,
guess
definitely socks. Yeah, I
socks.
probably go like 3 months. I can go three
Why do
months
you say
without wearing
so?
the same pair of socks, and they're not like just like all like solid color socks. I get like a lot of different designs and stuff. Here, for example,
That's crazy.
this one we
I mean,
got today.
I guess, yeah. Thinking about that, think I know a couple people that have variety of socks like that. So yeah, I think I can understand where you're coming from with that one. But me, let's keep it simple. Keep it all black pair and maybe a few white ones here
Cool.
and there. The length probably change depending, if it's shorts or
Sure.
wintertime or something like that. Um, and what's one question that you wish people would ask you more, but they don't?
I don't know. I guess maybe like what I'm working on, like what stories or ideas like I'm excited about right now. Maybe. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What we
Well,
got?
good thing I asked that question. All right. Well, it's just three simple questions. Just to get this stuff going. Um, Now I forget my next segment, which is back issues. Um, Being in comics, you should know all about back issues. Um, for the people who don't know, back issues are typically, if you want to know about somebody's origin story, you will go back into their back issues. So with the popularity of Spider-Man right now, most people are going to Spider-Punk's back issues right now to find out more about him. So right now, I'm gonna go to your back issues so people know more about you. and find out about
So
your
not
origin
actual
story.
comic books that we put out, but just like in my life, how I got to become a comic creator.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I got like four
Okay.
questions. Yeah, yeah.
I have
Mhm.
had always loved comic books, and
Well, I got questions for you, so
okay,
you don't
all
have to
right,
think
I'll
too
answer
hard
them.
about it. I got you. All right. So, first question: where are you from, and what do you
I'm
call your
from New
hood?
Jersey. I grew up around Philadelphia. So I dirty Jers, I guess is what I would call New Jersey. I grew up in Bucks County,
Okay.
Pennsylvania then, and
All
I
right.
grew up in Lower Bucks County, and we used to jokingly call it the LBC, like the way Snoop Dogg refers to Long Beach City as the LBC. We used to refer to Lower Bucks County as the LBC.
Okay. Yeah, I never heard about that one, so that's new. Okay. Is it close to the
So
water?
Bucks County is in Pennsylvania. It's right over the river from Trenton.
Okay. Okay. Are
Yeah, yeah.
you listen to music? Okay. What was the first music experience that got you intrigued? Like the type of music or type of artist or a genre of music. What
Well,
got you
I
into it?
remember because I've been playing this song on a playlist at work. My first favorite song was The Who. Who Are You? Or no, not Who Are You. It was You Better, You Better, You Bet by The Who. And I had the 45, and I had a little like kitty like record player that could only play 45s. I mean, I'm aging myself here. I'm in my 40s. This was the early 80s that was my favorite song. Um, and that was the first memory I have of like, oh, I had a song that I loved and a band that I loved. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. What about comic books? What is it, a comic book or a comic related TV
My
show that
mom
got
got
you
me
into
into
comics?
comics because I was reading like really early, and when she like realized like I was done with all the Dr. Seuss stuff, she was like, "All right, here's a box of comic books. This is what I used to read." Like when she used to collect back in the late 50s and early 60s. Um, so even though I got started out on her like Superman and Lois Lane and Supergirl books or whatever, that isn't really like what fully got me inspired into like sticking with comic books. I think really the series that got me interested in buying it every month during the 80s was the Transformers. Transformers was just like a cool book back then.
Oh, okay.
My brother and I had the toys. Yeah. So I think Transformers might have been one of the first books to really get me interested in like showing up at the store every month for the newest issue.
Okay. So was it the show and the
Oh
books
yeah,
or
yeah.
just the
That was yeah. We were
books?
also part of that, like the first generation of kids that would rush home from school to watch all the Saturday afternoon cartoons, and it was like Transformers, GI Joe, He Man, and like maybe the Smurfs like rebroadcast in the afternoon sometimes. But I know Smurfs was more of a Saturday morning thing. But yeah, so yeah, we watched the cartoons. Yeah.
Okay. Since your mom collected comics and whatnot and got you into comics, my next question typically is like when did you find out you was a nerd? But since it's like you grew up with it, when did you find out you was really
Um,
part of
I
the
guess like
that group?
okay, so maybe in junior high there was little since I was part of like role playing Dungeons and Dragons groups and stuff like that, like, and maybe went to a couple role playing conventions in the
Mm.
'90s. That like we knew there was only like 5 or 6 of us from our school that even knew about the shit that like let alone who was going or whatever. So I guess yeah, by junior high I knew I was kind of like a nerd. I was also I was in some of like the accelerated learning programs, the gifted programs at school that like I knew like in my second grade math class, since I got tested into gifted math or whatever, it was just me and a teacher. So that was when I felt like really weird for being smart. I was like, oh, is being smart cool? Because like I don't have anybody else in the class. This is kind of weird. So I felt weird for being smart and then
Mm.
being a geek, and I think that I overcompensated for that later in life by being like a class clown, like where like I would use whatever intelligence I was gifted with to make a lot of stupid jokes, so that like even though I was kind of in these smart classes, I could still
Mhm.
like get some kind of rep as well. At least they're funny. So, mm.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Um, you said role playing conventions. Is that the
No,
same
no,
thing
no,
as
no.
LARPing?
LARPing did not exist back then. I think like it's a it's like DEF CON. I think was one of the big ones. And they like Dragon Con this and that, but like it'd be a place where yeah, like people would have an adventure and you would sign up and be like, all right, I'm gonna play your 3 hour Dungeons and Dragons thing, even though I don't know this dungeon master. We're meeting at a convention hall in some like hotel or whatever. And yeah, we were like teenagers. I don't know what the hell our parents were thinking, like leaving us alone for the weekend in a hotel. Um, but in the 80s,
Oh, so it was the
yeah,
actual it
yeah,
was the
yeah.
actual
Like
tabletop
yeah,
games.
Dungeons and Dragons. They
Oh, okay,
used to
okay,
have a
okay, okay.
Marvel role playing game. There was by going to the conventions is how I got introduced to some of the more obscure ones like Toon. There's like a whole role playing game where you could like you have cartoon characters and powers. Um, so yeah, no, it was like a role playing game convention. Yeah, that people would just play Dungeons and Dragons for 3 days straight. Mhm.
That's crazy. I guess it's I don't know. Hmm.
This is
I never heard
way
about
before
that.
Comic
You know,
Cons.
I've been to some conventions and I've seen it like off to the
Mhm.
yeah, I seen it off to the corner, but I never seen one that was
Yeah, no, that
solely
was back in the
dedicated.
like
Yeah.
80s and 90s. That was a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, my local comic book shop, they do I guess little meetups or events like they probably do it like 3 times a week. Then, I never thought of that big, but like they got a new location recently and it probably takes up about 4 or 5
Yeah,
tables. So like
yeah.
long tables. So like
There's still an audience for
yeah.
it. I think probably more than ever, like role playing games are probably more popularized now. It's less of a geek thing, less of a nerd thing, more just like a regular part of encouraging kids to use their imagination.
Yeah. Yeah, the show Stranger Things, they it probably did it, and I also was told that if I had to build like character development or had a hard time doing character concepts, I should go into that and learn how to build my characters more because there's a lot of
Oh
detail
yeah,
in the games.
absolutely.
I
And
assume.
there's a variety of games too. Like Star Wars has a role playing game. They have more mech based ones where you're like piloting giant like man robot things or whatever, battle platforms. So yeah, there's definitely a variety of different role playing games, and that was just another nerd thing that we did in grade school in junior high.
Okay, okay, okay. That's cool. That's cool. I'm gonna roll on to my next segment, which
Okay.
is called the hotkeys. Um, which is a double meaning segment. In music, it's it'll be buttons on a turntable that DJ pressed to trigger certain songs or part of the songs to get the party jumping more. Um, as well in comics, it's like key issues that you want to get like when a new artist get on a project or a new writer or when a character introduced or nowadays when a movie's coming out or a TV show and they use that storyline in that book, you want to get that issue because the price gonna jump up. So um, this segment is basically like key questions you want people to know about you and what you do, so they can take that away from this interview and really learn something or
Okay.
support you in what you do. All right. My first question is really just based off one of the books you sent me, which is Vikings. And my question about that, why has Vikings never been as popular as knights or ninjas?
I don't know. Actually, I think in the last couple of years, Vikings have had like a huge resurgence. That there's been a couple of TV shows, a couple of movies that have really sparked everybody's interest in it. I also think historically, people are looking into the topic that it's like old enough history that we don't know every detail, but like there are still enough archaeological sites, like they're finding the exact sites in North America where the Vikings arrived at. Um, and beat the Christopher Columbus by 400, 500 years or whatever. Um, so I just think that yeah, it's an exciting time to be interested in Vikings because we're still learning about so much of it, and I guess I don't know. Yeah, knights and ninjas have been more in the forefront of our media for a lot longer, maybe. Um, and in that
Mm-hmm.
swashbuckler sort of swords and sorcery swashbuckling genre. Yeah, your armored barbarians and warriors have always maybe taken a little bit of forefront, a little bit of the stage spotlight away from Vikings, but nothing's cooler than ninjas though. I don't know, like we're not gonna beat nobody's gonna beat ninjas.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm just gonna put up that that book you sent me too, so you can speak on that as well. Um, well, I don't want to do that. Wait, okay. All right. So I have Vikings: The
Yes.
Saga of the North right here. And what is this
So
about
it's
right here?
actually a historical accounting of the Viking Age. We kind of take people through the approximately 300 years that the Age of the Vikings was composed of. Um, so it was my friend Jose. I met him in a comic book forum on Facebook, and he was looking for someone who might publish this idea. And I saw the artwork. And there was just so much good artwork that he already had like 40 drawings, and I was excited to work with an artist as talented as him. And but I saw that he didn't quite have a narrative arc to it yet. So I worked with his friend Douglas and Jose on getting a storyline, a beginning and end, and filling in as much of the historical details as we could in the middle. I'm actually still working with Douglas on editing. There's at least one or two things he was like, "What's your source on this? I don't know if this is historically accurate." And he's like in graduate school doing actual like Viking studies at archaeological sites in Europe. So I got to take Douglas's expertise on those things. So the version you have is probably still getting edited slightly before we go live on Kickstarter, and we're going to go live on Kickstarter in August. Hopefully, maybe you can have me back between August and September when the Kickstarter's live, and we can talk about it while we're actually on Kickstarter.
All right, that's cool. And the art style, is this typically his art style, or he chose this art
I
style
think that's
for this project?
a pretty good example of what Jose's art looks like in general. Um, and I actually thought of it when I was looking at it. It kind of reminded me some of the pages of that TV show Primal. If you saw that on Adult Swim at all, where it's like the barbarian, and like I was just
Yes,
like,
I
wow,
have.
this
Yeah.
reminds me a lot of that Primal shit. And he was like, wow, that's a huge compliment. That's not what he's aiming for, but if I put him in the same league as that guy, he was very flattered. And we're actually working on Jose and I have a follow up Viking
Hmm.
story. It's going to be about more fictitious. This one's like nonfiction, historical. But the fiction book that we're working on is going to involve some Vikings sailing from Iceland through the Arctic Circle over the top of Russia around to Japan, like kind of through the northern route, which is something I know like people search for years, explorers search for years, and died up there in the Arctic Circle a lot. But we're gonna have a fictitious version of it, which is going to actually feature an elven character, and also a friend of that elven character is going to be Yule Cat. I don't know if you know the story of Yule Cat in Icelandic belief superstition. He's like a giant cat that will eat you if you don't wear new clothes on
Mm-mm.
Christmas. And so yeah, it's a great
Wow.
myth. I love it. So I decided to take Yule Cat and turn him into a character for that story. And so Jose and I do have some future stuff that we'll be working on that will stay in the Viking genre.
And you might have said it, but what historical era or event is this book like showcasing?
The Viking Age from like I think 780 something through like 1050, the approximate historically defined Viking Age. Hmm?
Okay, okay, okay. It looks good. I bet the print version would definitely look great. I can definitely see it being a hard copy. Just I don't know. It just feel like it would look better like a hard copy. I don't know. I just see that in my vision for that, but it looks dope from my skim
Thank
through,
you.
and I said you have a Kickstarter. You're gonna
August.
start for that in
About August 15th, yeah.
August. Okay. Then you were just the editor on letter of that,
And
correct?
I did some of the writing, like rewriting, rewrites, yeah. So which could fall under
Okay,
editing,
okay,
but yeah.
okay. Um, I see. Okay, I'm in another one of your books now. But let me see. I'll put this on screen. But I also want to talk about your publications company. One,
hmm
two, three, go. Is that correct? And what made you
Um,
start that?
I had been using Go as my like logo for a year or two, and then I found out someone else used Go as their thing, and so I changed it to 123 Go because it was a thing that I found myself saying often in our like Facebook work groups. That I would be like, talking about we got to do this, this, that, and the
Mhm.
third, and okay, 123 go do it, and so I changed it to that, and it kind of came about when I had initially just been doing Sidereal Apogee. You got two of those covers up right now. But that was my cyberpunk anthology book. And then I started doing Gunmetal Black Ops, which is an espionage anthology. And I started publishing other people's original characters and stories. And it felt important to me at that point, like, okay, let's have a banner under which a label, a brand that we put this all out under, so that like easier to identify instead of just saying, oh, I make books with Phoebe. Be like, oh, I make comic books with 123 Go Publications.
Okay, okay. And this title I have up now is
Oh, I
called
love
Trouble.
Trouble.
Now, is that your book or is somebody you
I wrote
published?
that, I lettered that, and I printed and published it.
Okay, okay. So how is it doing your work versus helping somebody else on his work?
I mean, I love putting out books that are other people in the underground of comic books that giving them an opportunity, a place for their stories. So I think at this point, almost half of our the stuff that we put out on 123 Go are other people's stories. And it's just a place, a home for creative underground individuals.
Okay, okay. And this Trouble story, is this space
Yeah, it
story or
takes place
sci-fi
in the
story?
2400s, but it's a comedy action. Tamika Kennedy, that lady right there who's vaping with the sunglasses, she's a retired Soul Corps Marine, and basically she just wants to lounge around on the beach and drink mojitos and enjoy herself. But unfortunately, she's good friends with the local police sergeant, who turns to her for help every time he fucks up, which is frequently. So so basically, yeah,
Okay.
I like to refer to her kind of as my Spider-Man, and this is me coming from like reading Spider-Man in the 80s and 90s, when Spider-Man was kind of like a reluctant hero, where like, yeah, he'll go beat the Rhino, Scorpion, Lizard, all these other silly superheroes, robbing banks or whatever, petty criminals, dressed as animals. But that like he was really just trying to go to college and hang out with Mary Jane and Aunt May. And if it was up to him, he'd rather just be a college student or a photographer. He had better shit to do, but with great power comes great responsibility, and she's the only one with these abilities. So she steps up and kicks some ass.
And looking at the abilities, control
No,
water.
it's
Is that
okay.
it?
So the things on her arms, she has these panels on her arms that are basically nanotech that's built into her arm, and she forms these giant talons out of them. And I think if you go to the next page, you'll see she stabs dude through the shoulders with them. Um, but yeah, imagine if like Wolverine had just one huge giant claw that was like 2 feet long. That's kind of what she has.
Okay, okay, okay. That's cool. That's cool. And is this like issue one or this just
That's
one
issue
issue out
one,
of the
and
story?
issue two is more than halfway done. She's also going to feature in our 13th Moon Volume 3, which is our Halloween anthology series. And she's actually the cover story in that one. That one is Trouble versus Cthulhu, and I am wearing my brand new Cthulhu shirt tonight, if anybody could see that. Um, Supporting the nameless one. But yeah,
Hmm.
her and her friend, who's a young lady who's a hacker, are going to battle Cthulhu together, which is incredibly outmatched. She's just one little superhero lady versus the giant dark monster that is Cthulhu. So that should be fun.
All right. And in I guess last 2 3 years, Cthulhu's always been a new thing. So what's the fascination with Cthulhu? How come everybody's building stories around them and they making TV shows based off of it? Because back in high school, I read Lovecraft stories, but it was so low key, nobody cared. But now it's like a reemergence. Everybody wants to make stuff based off his stuff. Like, so what happened?
Okay, so the story with my Trouble vs. Cthulhu story, at least, is that I had pitched it to, if you've seen, it's a big Kickstarter title, Cthulhu is Hard to Spell. Have you ever seen that one?
Oh
So
yeah,
I
I
pitched
heard
this
that one.
Trouble story to that anthology. I didn't get in the book, but I was like, I still have this really good 10-page story written. And Cthulhu is one of those like open property things that it's like nobody owns a copyright on it anymore, so you can use that character. Open domain, I think it's called, maybe. Yeah,
That's probably what
and
happened. Yeah. Okay.
also it's just a great character. He's kind of like just awful giant beast that can consume everything. And a lot of the times, the Cthulhu stories or Lovecraft stories are more about the followers trying to summon these great beasts. And so, like, you have to deal with the human cult rather than, God forbid, he actually came through whatever portal and made it to Earth. Because I'm pretty sure if Cthulhu actually shows up, it's like lights out, we're done. Like, he's just gonna eat us. Like, pretty sure, like Galactus. Like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And the art style trouble. It looked kind of manga-ish. Is that what you're going
Absolutely.
for, or
That's
what's the
both
art
what I
style?
wanted for the book. And Xuanshin, who is the artist on that, he is actually a hentai artist. He like makes money. His day job is drawing hentai, whatever you say. So he does all these crazy, like, beautiful lady porn images, kind of like superheroes with weird boobs and tails and shit, and horn kitty ears or whatever. So he gets paid like on the regular to draw sexy comic book manga art or whatever. And yeah, I'm really lucky to work with Schwinn.
Okay,
He's very
okay,
talented.
okay, okay. And I would put the other project you gave me, but it's 268 pages,
That's this
so I
one.
don't think the computer gonna load up for me the pages
Yeah, no, that's
like I
okay.
wanted to. But
This one, right?
uh yeah. So yeah. So is that an anthology?
That's
What is
like
that? Why is it
actual
so
like
big?
written word pages. It's not a comic book. This is a book. This is the first.
Oh, so
Yep,
that's
it's
why
the
it's
first
taking.
book that
Okay.
I wrote. It's a 17 story short story collection. It's available right now on IndiePlanet.com and on Kindle.
And was that before or
I
after the
mean,
comics you
the first
did?
stories in that book were written in like 2004. So I started writing stuff that
Okay.
would go into that book before I ever started working on comic books. But like, yeah, I still write short stories. I have a short story going into a collection this month actually. Um, Novelty Gazette. The Novelty Gazette quarterly, I think it is, that I have a story going into. And then he will also print, like, I think 5 stories in a soft cover. So I will have like another book to sell when I'm at conventions and stuff.
Okay. And which one did you feel like more like it was easier for you to produce? I get you're not an
No,
artist,
not
correct?
really. I mean, I'm okay with some spray paint art, but like I don't really draw. Not really.
Okay, so as a writer, which one of these felt easier or more comfortable for you to do, the novel or
I
the
think comic
comics?
books can be easy insofar as writing them, even like sometimes thumbnail sketching them, but it's a lot harder in that you got to coordinate the line artist, the colorist, and that's stuff that I'm outsourcing and I have to pay other people to do. So that's more of like a coordinating the effort on a team. With my book and my writing, it's usually write a story, be done with it, sit on it for a couple years sometimes, and then when it came to putting it out, I did hire an editor. But that's even then just a two-person operation, just between me and an editor, and so I kind of simpler in that manner.
Okay. With you being an editor, how is it working with another
Um,
editor?
it can be tough at times, but also it's like the book so much better and that much easier for me sometimes. I initially wanted to edit it myself, and I like spent a week on it, and I was like, I can't do this because like I'm reading stories that I've already read 20 times, and I don't even notice when there's a word missing because my brain's filled it in so many times, like just from the expectation because I know what it's supposed to say. Like I needed
Mhm.
someone who like was looking at it with fresh eyes and was just like, "This is good," except for you fucked up all over here. I'm like, "Oh, I did. You're right." But you don't notice your own flaws when you're
Mhm.
like that attached to a piece of art sometimes.
Okay. Which another question, like, for you being an editor, and what do you look for in an editor? Is because you want people to hire you as an editor. So do you hire an editor that's not what's the word I'm looking for? Not tailored to that genre or that type of story to make a better editor, or you want somebody who's like, if you wrote a sci-fi story, you want a sci-fi editor.
I just got an editor who's an expert in literature. So I don't think Joseph and
Okay.
I always write in the same genre, but my editor is much better with grammar. Has read a lot more books than I have, and just in general, is more of an expert on the English language than I am. So yeah, maybe my cyberpunk stories sometimes involve crazy science. I'll research like what actually is real or is possible in computer technologies or whatever outer space shit that I need. I'm putting into a story. Um, and he doesn't need to know all that necessarily. He just needs to know if the sentences. He doesn't even care if the science makes sense. He's just like, well, sure, maybe that's real, but do the words work? Like, so.
Hmm. Um, I struggled with the importance of an editor. My first comic, I did not have an editor. I just used like my sister and my fiance to read it over. Just second eye opinion. Then I was like told to get one, so I had one for my second,
Mhm.
third, and fourth issues. But with that, I had a guy maybe similar to you read my second one. Um, but then I had a friend who was also an English teacher. I let him read it, and which the third one also came out better. But going to the fourth one, I haven't gave it to the editor yet. Well, I have gave it to one editor, but I was told that there are ways the comics read. So like if an English teacher read it, he's gonna read it phonetically, and grammar wise, but comics have something different. So have you encountered things like that? Because you read in a certain way, it may change the
Yeah,
way
yeah, I think
the
yeah,
character is
it's because
perceived.
there's such a visual component to comic books that like the flow on the page isn't just about the words; it's also about the action and the viewer's eye. Like if you don't place your speech bubbles in the right part of the panel to take them to the next panel, it might take them to the wrong part of the page. Stuff like that. Um, so yeah, I would say it's better to work with an editor that does edit comic books. Yeah.
Okay. And another thing, and I didn't know, like I just didn't know the importance of an editor. I thought it was just somebody who proofreads. But I also was told that um get them for a whole project. Like let's say I'm gonna have a 5 issue run, get that editor to read over all 5 issues. So I guess it
Yeah,
stay in
yeah.
continuity maybe. So what's the importance of that besides the continuity issue? Like why keep the same
For
editors
tone,
across
for
the board?
consistency, yeah, I would say. Another thing that I do as an editor, have you ever seen? It's a YouTube channel. It's part of Screen Rant. It's called Pitch Meeting. The guy, like, I think.
Yeah, I don't think
Okay,
I
well,
heard
it's this
that one
guy
though.
that, like, he plays both characters. He's both the producer who has the money to make the movie and the writer who came up with the idea for the movie. And it's just really hilarious. He,
Hmm.
like, really destroys some stuff that's very popular these days. Like, you should watch his one on the Mandalorian or Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett. Like, how he's just like, yo, there are these huge holes in the story, but the way that he, like, presents them, like, as the producer, he's like, wait, that doesn't make sense. And then the writer guy's like, oh, you're just gonna have to shut up about that. And I kind of come at it with, I would say I approach editing with a similar attitude of, yo, you have these holes in your story, and, like, I like the story overall, but if we don't, like, fix, like, this plot hole, then I don't want to put this story out because that don't make sense. So, like, if I can figure out, like, in the proofread that it don't make
Hmm.
sense, then your readers are also gonna notice that it doesn't make sense. So, like, I don't want to put out stories that have that kind of
Hmm.
that have plot holes in
And how big does a pothole has to be like be an
Oh,
issue?
I mean, just in general, it's just like, yo, that doesn't make sense. Why would this character do that? And unless the writer has, like, some, like, oh, because this is gonna happen later, like, then I'm like, please fix that. Please make it so that it doesn't hurt my brain.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's cool. But besides the Vikings, Saga of the North, and Trouble, do you have any other projects you got coming out?
Yeah.
I guess under your publishing
So
company.
Gunmetal Black Ops #4 will be coming out. #3 came out earlier this year, or no, late last summer. And we're working on a few other books. 13th Moon Volume 2 will be out pretty soon. Basically, right now, my thing is I'm trying to get on at New York Comic Con. I have a application into table at New York Comic Con, and I think I'll find out later this month if I've been accepted. I already bought an extra ticket for one of my friends that'll help me run the table if I get on, and a friend of mine is helping do the. Okay, so the crazy lady on the cover of this book with the half of an alligator face or whatever, we're making a cosplay outfit so that one of my friends could be dressed as Grace Atrophy at the Comic Con.
Oh,
So I figure that might bring us a little traffic to the table if we got somebody dressed up like this crazy weird alien lady. So that's my big focus right now.
okay. Okay. For those who not used to going to conventions, and it sounds like you've been going since using middle school conventions. What helps you stand out at conventions compared to the guy or the girl next to you? Like, what makes you draw the people towards your table versus people just
Yeah,
walking by and give you a head
honestly,
nod?
so this will be my first comic book convention ever, if I get in. That there basically I was ready to start tabling at around when COVID hit, and that, like, stopped me dead in my tracks from doing conventions for a year or two. And then I've relocated. I'm up in Vermont now, and I've kind of been, like, saving my money up, um, getting enough books together that, yeah, I'm ready to hit New York Comic Con and have, like, 20 different titles on the table, a cool friend cosplaying, and, like, some good posters, like, of that Trouble character behind me. The best artwork I have, basically, to pull people in. And then if they want to buy some of our other books that, the art isn't quite at Schwenn's level, whatever. I'm happy to be working with those all my artists. Not everybody has to be on the same caliber, but I am going to stress the things that I think, like, I mean, boobs sell, Trouble is a very sexy lady, and she's always, like, kind of dressed kind of scantily, I'll say. And, like, I'm gonna play on that. I'm gonna, like, use that to
Hmm.
bring people in and be like, oh, cool, you like the superheroes that are, like, sexy ladies. Cool. That's why I knew that. Like, I knew people like that. That's why I made her both so sexy and powerful. Like, um, and then our other books, I think I have posters behind me of, like, Moloch back here. He's a demon who, like, is fighting in hell or whatever. And some people are more into that horror shit, so I'll throw a poster of him up and have those books for sale too. And, like, try to have a little bit of everything. Not everybody's gonna be into superhero ladies. Not everyone's gonna be into horror demons or whatever. But have 4 or 5 different options on the table. Be like, oh, well, we also have Vikings. You into that? Blah blah blah. So I would say variability, a little bit of the
Hmm.
options. Options will sell, and then, yeah, like, sexy ladies will sell, demons will sell, whatever. And I hope that the cosplay is really gonna draw some attention, because it's like they'll know that they're in cosplay, but they'll be like, "Who the hell are you?" And be like, "Oh, it's our original character."
Mhm. Mhm. Um, I got in comments like 2019, and I didn't start going to conventions till like this year. I have been in local stuff, like it's just one room type of deal. But the conventions I have been to, I noticed. I've been to one. It's called Fandemic. It's like Walking Dead mixed with comic books. The other one I've been to was the South Carolina Comic Con. I think it was No, it's nothing special. And recently I've been to MomoCon, which is an
Well,
anime convention. And each one of the conventions, I'm peeping the scene around. Cause I'm gonna eventually get my own table at a convention, and I'm seeing what works and what draws people in. Of course, the anime still draws people in and whatnot, but my thing was, if I'm a famous guy and I used to draw a Hulk or write Hulk, and I'm there, how do people know who I am versus this person who just redrew a My Hero Academia poster and is selling? And I thought it was just crazy that you know can people tell who's the real artist or professional versus somebody who just doing like pinup artwork? Um, because then it was weird to me. So like you talking about New York Comic Con and everybody know that's a big deal. So people assume that you're part of the I guess the big leagues because you're there, or is it really a thing that they see Jim Lee over there, so they're going for Jim Lee, or are they still going to the other
I
tables on
think it's
Artist
going to
Alley?
depend on the particular person. And I have watched videos of New York Comic Con to like get an idea of how the setup is. And yeah, there are going to be people that are just there to go talk to the artist who draws the Avengers, or talk to the artist that draws Batman, or whatever title it is that they're into. Since those guys are going to be there signing books, signing drawings and shit, like people will go there just to talk to those professional people. But I think there's also a level of people that are like interested in what's coming up from the underground, what's the indie shit. And if you have art that like is a huge poster of something that could be published by Marvel or DC, a lot of my artists are good enough to be on those in those companies technically. The so like if the art can catch their eye, if my friend cosplaying catches their eye, like sure we're gonna need a gimmick to pull them in. But and yeah, maybe there is a level of what you said, like that they'll just assume like that we're as professional as Jim Lee or Eric Liefeld or whatever. But I think that it's still gonna be a struggle because I'm not. No matter how good our books are, it's not as exciting to meet me as it would be to meet like Jim Lee or to meet some of the other amazing people that I know are going to be there. So yeah, I still have my
Okay,
work cut out for me.
okay, all right, that's cool. I'm gonna move on to my last segment, which is digging the crates. This is another two meaning segment. In music, you dig in the crates. You find that CD or that vinyl like back in the day that triggered like for you. You're looking for that Who album from back in the day. You're trying to find. As well in comics, you'll go into digging in crates to find the issues that those old Lois Lane issues your mom had. You trying to find them and whatnot in the Second and Charles or your local comic book store or whatever. So this segment just basically one question, so the people at home can just take something away from this interview closing out. And just something I just come on top of my head, based on the whole conversation we had last 40 minutes. Um, if you had to work on any project, last 30, 40 years and whatnot, to be a writer on it, on a certain story arc, you know, what book or story arc would you pick to be the writer or the editor for in these last
One of
30 some
my
years?
favorite story arcs. Well, first of all, my favorite book. After I got through like the '80s and being into the Hasbro shit, I got into the X Men, and I'm a huge X Men fan. And If anybody asks me right now who my favorite X-Men is, for the last couple of years, it's been Clarice Ferguson, Blank, who originates from the Age of Apocalypse, was the first time she appeared. And I would say, in general, I would write some Age of the Apocalypse stories. I think that it's a cool little world that was like, back when they did that, when Marvel in the 90s was like, yo, we're shutting down all the X-Men books and putting out like a different version of the whole fucking thing. Nobody had done that yet. Now that happens like every other year with DC or fucking Marvel. They're like, oh, let's do the Gotham gas lamp or blah blah blah, and they're like, let's do Batman this way, and like they'll shut down a Batman book to have the alternate universe version. But when Age of Apocalypse came out, that was revolutionary. Nobody was doing that shit back then, and so because it was kind of insulated in those like particular stories, there's so much of that world that's gone unexplored. There's so much history there that you can write stories for, or since it's technically, I think that dimension still exists in its own right. You could write stories of what happens after that story arc.
Funny story. Funny thing you picked that story because they brought it back. I think they doing Age of Apocalypse like before, like they going back into that world, so they brought in more issues 1, 2, and 3. But I guess it's gonna be before some of the events that happen.
They can email me, Phoebe Xavier at gmail.com. I can write you some good stories. I promise.
Yeah. Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. But thanks for coming on. We had some trouble at the beginning, but we pushed through it though. But for the people who want to get some of your books and support you and follow you along to August when you drop the Kickstarter.
Okay, so most of our books are available at indieplanet.com/123go. And yeah, that's where I think you'll find like 15 books and my short story collection. On Instagram, I do have like at Phoebe123go, but I think I have like 4 posts. I don't really use Instagram. We're on Facebook. You can find 123go Publications on Facebook. I think it's 123go with an exclamation point maybe, and then Publications, which is usually how I brand it. What other sites are we on? That's mostly it. I would say, yeah, go find us on Facebook or Instagram, and or buy our books at indieplanet.com/123go. Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, thanks for coming on, man. It was really great.
Thank you for having me.
We out.
Hey, y'all. Got back to the green box late. I had fighting crime, But hey, check out Phoebe. Check out all her stuff. Look like she drops a project or posts a project every month. So check her out. Great stuff. Great books. Different takes on a lot of things. So make sure you check her out. And you want to tell my books, man, check me out at legacyview.com. And you can follow me at Legacy on social media. And you want to follow the co-host Specks Thompson, follow him at Specks Thompson and Specks706 on social media. And you want to be on the show, hit us up at Chill on the Green Box on social media or chillonthegreenbox@gmail.com. And I'm out.